I don't know why I'm so nervous to be filming this, but I am. I don't think I've ever done an official bookshelf tour. I've obviously showed you guys my shelves many times before, and I've also done videos of me like building them and reorganizing them, but I haven't done an official bookshelf tour, and I would love to make it a tradition to do one of these like maybe once a year. We'll see how we go and just like see how my shelves change over the years, because I'm sure I will always be acquiring new books and probably unhauling old books. So welcome to the official 2023 bookshelf tour. I don't feel like I have like a crazy library, but it honestly is my pride and joy. I love my shelves. I love my books. I take a lot of pride in my shelves and keeping them organized and clean and all of those sorts of things. I'm very particular about where I place certain books for the most part, and so I'm excited to go through them today and talk to you guys. I do have a mini mic going on because I don't want the audio to be fluctuating depending how far away or how close I am to the camera. I guess we'll start off with a bit of an overview of this space as a whole. Welcome to my library. This actually isn't even a room in my house, like it's just a space at the end of the hallway, but I really like how my books fit here. I have a little reading chair corner here, so it works well. Hopefully one day I'll have like an actual library room, but for now I am very content with my little corner. I have two white Billy bookcases from IKEA, just the classic. I feel like everyone has these, but they're so great, you know, like they're just perfect. I also have my TBR cart over in the corner there, and that is just from Kmart, I'm pretty sure. And then this chair here is also from IKEA, and then the little puff over here is from Kmart. The way I decided to organize my shelves is basically whenever I buy or receive a book, it goes on my TBR cart, and then once I read it, it goes on my big shelves. So all of the books that you see on these two shelves have been read, or some of them are DNFs, because also if I DNF it, it goes on the shelf or it gets unhauled. I used to just have all of my books on my shelves, and I didn't really like separate my read books from my unread books, and I just found that I was shopping way too much because I didn't even like realize how many books I had on my physical TBR. And as soon as I separated it and got a little TBR cart, it really changed the game for me. I feel like I just became so much more aware of the books that I haven't read, that I already own, and I've really been prioritizing reading my actual physical TBR. So that works really well for me. Let's move on to the shelves. The last time I reorganized my shelves, I kind of separated them. So the left side is all just like contemporary, mostly romance, but a bit of like general fiction, literary fiction. That's mostly it. And then on the right side is mostly fantasy, except for the top shelf, which is YA, mysteries and thrillers. And then I also do have some books on top of the shelves. We'll go through them in a bit, and they're kind of just, unfortunately, whatever kind of just needs to go up there. Like whatever doesn't fit on these shelves goes up there. I also feel like I just have books piled everywhere in my house at the moment. So these aren't necessarily all my books, but it would definitely be the majority of them. Like 90% of my books are here, and then 10% are kind of just scattered all over the rest of the house. And we also have another Billy bookcase behind you guys, which you can't see, and that's where we keep all of our non-fiction books. Those are mostly my husband Liam's books, so I'm not going to go through those today. I mean, I do enjoy non-fiction, but it's not as fun as these ones. So the non-fiction books over there, fun books over here. What's up, guys? I feel like this is such an awkward angle, but obviously we just got to do the best we can with what we have. I'm not going to talk through every single book that I have on my shelves, otherwise we will be here for a long time, but I will pull out like some of my favorites and show you guys some of my more special books, I guess you could say. I think we'll go through the top row in a little bit, but as for the first proper shelf we have here, these are all of my contemporary romance series, or not even all, most of my contemporary romance series. Oh my gosh, I'm literally a floating head. Hey guys! The first series we have here is The Edens by Devney Perry. This is a small town romance series, kind of just like interconnected standalones. Each book follows a different sibling from the Edens family. And then we have the Calamity Montana series, which is written by Will and Ash, but that is just one of Devney Perry's pen names. So also by Devney Perry, I guess you could say. And it is very similar to the Edens. So if you like the Edens, you'll probably like Calamity Montana. And again, it's just a bunch of interconnected standalones that all take place in the same small town. Then we have, honestly, these are kind of like prized possessions for me. We have the Chestnut Spring series by Elsie Silver. These are cowboy romances and they are so much fun. My favorite one is definitely Powerless, followed by Reckless. Like those are definitely my two favorites. And I do have the mirror covers, which were limited edition. You can still get your hands on some of them, but not all of them. And so they are very special to me. And then we have the beautiful Knock 'Em Out trilogy by Lucy Score. I love these covers so much. I think they are so extremely beautiful. Then we have Icebreaker and Wildfire by Hannah Grace, the Dreamland Billionaire trilogy by Lauren Asher, and then Binding and Keeping 13 by Chloe Walsh. I am honestly a huge romance series fan. I would much rather read a romance series over a romance standalone personally. I love spending a lot of time with characters, especially if I love them. Of course I want to spend more time with them. Next up, we have my absolute favorite shelf. We have two of my favorite authors of all time. This is their shelf. They share it. They can be besties. I'm sure they'd get along very well. We have Jessa Hastings over this side and Emily Henry over this side. Starting off with Jessa Hastings, I am a huge Magnolia Parks fan. As you can see by my shirt, it says How's the Weather Parks if you haven't read it already. I obviously have quite a few copies of the Magnolia Parks series, but in my head, they're all justified. We also have this little bee. He's a little squishmallow. I got him in one of these little surprise squishmallow eggs where you open it up and you don't know which animal you're gonna get. It's like a lucky draw, and I got a bee, and I'm like, it's literally fate. Because if you don't know, bees are very significant in the Magnolia Parks universe. And so when I opened this, I was like, you're literally kidding. It's basically a sign from God. We'll put him down for a little second. Okay, so my first copies from Magnolia Parks that I bought are these ones here, which are the independently published, just the classic old covers. When I bought these covers, they were the only ones that you could buy. So these four are all the independently published ones. And then obviously Jessa Hastings got picked up by a publisher, which we absolutely love. And they brought out these trade paperbacks. So in Australia, when we get a new release, it comes out most of the time in a trade paperback, which are these very oddly tall paperbacks. It's the size of a hardcover, but it's just in paperback form. So that's why they're a little bit taller. And when they brought these out, I realized that any books that were then going to be brought out in this series and traditionally published would be brought out in this trade paperback size. So if I only had these smaller ones, the next ones that I bought in the series would be oddly taller, and I can't handle non-matching covers in series. So I decided to buy all of the traditionally published versions of the Magnolia Parks series. Oh my gosh, I just realized I'm missing one. BRB. I'm running, guys. I'm running. I started doing a reread kind of recently of The Great Undoing. That is why I have this one, and I totally forgot that I didn't have it on my shelf. Back to what I was saying. Then they changed the covers, they brought out the new covers. So of course I wanted to get those ones as well because it's just another version of my favorite book, and I will take any version I can find. There are some books where I do have two copies of them, like a special edition or something like that, but this is the one book that I will collect anything I can get my hands on, this is just my favorite series of all time. So yes, this is excessive, but let me just have this, let me just have this little piece of joy in my life. Is this series joyful? No. A lot of you might be like, oh wow, she really loves this series, maybe I should read it. Be careful. It will rip your heart into millions of pieces, some could say. Some people describe it as romance. I would describe it as more of a drama. It does have a lot of romance in it, but it's also very toxic, and it has a lot of tropes that a lot of people do not like. And honestly, most of the time, I don't like those tropes either, like cheating, miscommunication, breaking up, getting back together, breaking up, getting back together. But I feel like I just got so attached to the characters. These characters genuinely feel like my friends, my besties. The full box set, they are my besties. Are they all a little bit problematic? Yes. Are they all a little bit toxic? Yes. Do they all need to go to therapy? Yes. But no one's perfect. I'll take them as they are, And if you don't love it, that's okay. A lot of people don't. A lot of people don't. But I happen to adore it, so I will continue to collect it. I also have the German edition. I did buy this thinking it would have sprayed edges. It did not, but I'm not even mad about it because, again, I'm just collecting another edition of a book that I absolutely adore. And it also has these really cute fold-out pages that have the little Polaroids that are on the original cover, and I love that. And another little prized possession that I have on this shelf is an exclusive sampler of Magnolia Parks Into the Dark, which at the time of filming this is not out. And yes, I did almost cry when I received this from the publisher. This is basically a sneak peek at Into the Dark, which is the next and final Magnolia Parks book. There will still be more Daisy Hates books, but this will be the final Magnolia Parks books and the final installment to Magnolia and BJ's story. And this does hold one chapter of that book. I need to frame this at some point, but for now, it's just sitting in my bookshelf with all of its brothers and sisters. And you might be like, Rachel, you said there's more books coming into this series. Where are you going to put them? Don't ask me that. That's a problem for a future Rachel. I can worry about that another day. For now, beautiful. And then we also have my beautiful copy of Peter Pan. I have this on the shelf because Jessa Hastings has written a Peter Pan reimagining, and she suggested that before you read her book, you should go back and read J.M. Barrie's original version of Peter Pan. So I decided to buy myself a beautiful copy of it to keep on my Jessa Hastings shelf, just because I thought that would be fun. And I also am like, I can read this to my future kids, and that's so special. And it's just such a beautiful edition. Like, I love having it on my shelf. And then we move over to the other side and we have all of my Emily Henry books. So I have my 3 just like UK standard paperbacks, Beach Read, You and Me on Vacation, and Book Lovers. Yes, in the UK/Australia, People We Meet on Vacation is called You and Me on Vacation. I'm not sure why. It's just kind of how it is. So everyone always asks me that and I'm like, I don't know. I didn't write it. Then we have my US editions because I love the US editions. I think they're beautiful. I just got mine from Amazon for all of my Aussies out there. If you want these editions, I literally got them on Amazon. They were not really expensive at all. And then we have my hardcover edition of Book Lovers, which I love. And then one of my most prized possessions as well is my Dimmicks exclusive edition of Happy Place. Happy Place is, again, one of my favorite books of all time, and this one has sprayed edges that like match the cover, and so there is just like no way that I couldn't not get this. I'm so obsessed with this. As you'll see throughout this video, I don't have a lot of like special editions. I have a few here and there. I definitely don't have anything super rare, but I love all of my books, and the special editions that I do have, I absolutely treasure. They're so special to me. Then on the very end, we just have the standard US hardback, and then we have one of my other most prized possessions, and you might be like, that's just a normal paperback of Happy Place. No, it is not just a normal copy. It is signed by Emily Henry herself. That's her signature right there, and that is why it is one of my most prized possessions, because Emily Henry, one of my favorite authors of all time. That's crazy. If my house was burning down, I might have to save this. I think that's everything on this shelf. We spent a lot of time here, but it's like literally one of my favorite shelves, so I had to. Next, we are moving on to my rainbow shelves. I know that not everyone loves rainbow shelves, but I personally do. I think they look cute, but also I remember books by their covers. So if I'm looking for a specific book, I find it much easier to find it by its cover compared to like alphabetical order with the author or something like that. I am very particular with where my books go. Like, you could take me into another room, ask me where a specific book is on my shelf, and I could just tell you off the top of my head which shelf it's on and whereabouts on the shelf it is, because everything has such a distinct spot. So I know that some people are like, oh, color coding, it's just an aesthetic, I don't care. I love it. It works so well for me. Only in like specific things. Like, obviously I love to keep my series together. I like to keep certain authors together. Obviously I still separate contemporary from fantasy and things like that, but this works really well for me. So I have mostly warm tones at the top and then mostly cool tones at the bottom. I do have this limited edition ARC copy of Wildfire that has Aurora on the front and Russ on the back, and this is, again, such a special copy for me. I would love to have it like next to my copy of Wildfire, but it doesn't fit on the shelf, so it is over here for now. I also have my ARC copy of Check and Mate, which is also very special to me. We also have the Happy Ever After playlist by Abby Jimenez. I love Abby Jimenez. The only book that I don't love from her is The Friend Zone, and that's the only one I don't own by her, but everything else that I've read from her has been 4 stars or above. So we have the Happy Ever After playlist, Life's Too Short, Part of Your World, and Yours Truly. All absolutely phenomenal. Adore all of those books. This was a 5-star read for me in 2022. Such an underrated book. Everyone needs to read this. I think it gives me major Emily Henry vibes, kind of like that literary fiction cross between romance vibes. I don't know why more people don't talk about this. Then we have the next shelf here. I also have one book on display here, which is another very prized possession. I think this is also a limited edition ARC copy of Check and Mate. I don't know if you can purchase this anywhere, but it is so beautiful. I love the gold foiling, and it's just like a mini hardback. Like, it's not like a full-sized hardback, and that's just so cute to me. I'm obsessed with it, so it has to go on display. And the way the light hits the gold foiling is chef's kiss gorgeous. I also, on the side here, have 2 copies of Archer's Voice. Also, I have ordered the special edition of Archer's Voice. I am waiting for it to arrive, but again, don't know where it's gonna go, but it will go somewhere. I'll make it work. I love Archer's Voice. Archer's Voice is one of like the first books that I read a few years ago where I just like fell in love and was just like utterly obsessed. I feel like everyone kind of has a book that they just like fall in love with when they first start reading, and like a book that makes them be like, oh my gosh, like this is what it feels like to fall in love with a book. And Archer's Voice is one of the books that did that for me. And the reason why I have 2 2 copies because I am constantly lending this book out to friends. It's one of my most like borrowed books in my library. This is the one I borrow out. This is the one I keep for myself. I want to go through and fully annotate it, but I haven't had a chance yet. But this is the one I lend out to other people. But the main reason I bought a second copy is because for so long, like multiple months, I didn't have this book on my bookshelf because it was always being borrowed out by another one of my friends because I was trying to like force everyone in my life to read this, which I'm not mad about. I love borrowing my books out to my friends, but it was like sad to me because I didn't have one of my favorite books on my shelf. So I was like, you know what? I'll just buy another copy. A few of my other favorites on this shelf, I love The 7-Year Slip. I love Marriage for One better than the movies, is such a classic. I love You Deserve Each Other. I love Heartbreak House Share. This is another one that is so underrated. I wish more people would read this. And then I also really love One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Moving down. I am quite literally on the ground right now, but welcome to the bottom 2 shelves. If you can see the pile of books in the corner, that is my unhaul pile, so ignore that. But then we have these 2 shelves. Honestly, there's not like a whole lot of organization in these 2 bottom shelves. Originally, I was gonna do like white books and then black books, and this one still is mostly white books, but this one over time has kind of turned into just other things. Obviously, we have my Addicted / Calloway Sisters series, and this is one of my favorite series of all time. It is a 10-book series, so it is really long, but it's so worth it because you get so attached and like you just fall in love with these characters and you see so much character development. I love this series. And then we just have some random books. And then down on the bottom, we have my Francine Rivers over in the corner. She is a Christian fiction author. And actually, this is an exception to the rule. A lot of these I haven't read. I don't know why they're not on my TBR card. I have no justification for that apart from that I wanted to keep them all together. But I've only read 2 out of all of those, so I definitely need to read more of them because the 2 I have read, I absolutely loved. I also really loved The Truth About Love by Maisie Myers. One of those romances that will like break your heart and put it back together again, like really make you feel something. Also a bit sad as well, so check trigger warnings. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. Normal People by Sally Rooney, which I absolutely loved. The Lost Flowers of Alice Hart by Holly Ringland, which I also loved. And then I have my 2 copies of The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Again, absolutely loved this book. I just have like my normal edition, and then I have this Dimmicks exclusive edition, which has this beautiful cover. Again, the gold foiling, so beautiful. And then it also has gold foiling on the pages. And then we also have this on the naked hardcover, which is also so beautiful. And that's definitely another book that made me fall in love with reading. So it definitely has to be on display. Moving over to my fantasy shelf. We'll start at the bottom, why not? Fancy seeing you here. In terms of how I organize my fantasy books, honestly, whatever I just think looks good. That's how it's organized. I definitely keep series together, but I don't always keep authors together. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. In my brain, this made sense. I basically did white and colorful books at the bottom, and then mostly black books here. But then I started getting too many books, and so other books started like piling on top. Like I said, whatever I just feel looks the best. Starting off here, we have the Poppy War trilogy, which I did really enjoy, but was really, really hard to read. Then we have Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. So far, the only Brandon Sanderson book I have read, so I definitely want to read more of his backlist because I loved Warbreaker. I thought it was so good. Then we have my Folk of the Air trilogy, The Cruel Prince, The Wicked King, and The Queen of Nothing. This series is so special to me because it is the first fantasy series I ever read, or the first fantasy book I ever read as an adult. Fun fact, I read that series because of Hayley Pham. She read it, I think it was one of her first fantasy reads, and she raved about it, and she was like, everyone needs to read this, and so I did. So thank you, bestie Hayley, because all of this is basically because you recommended this one book. And now I am a fantasy girly through and through. So I will always love the Folk of the Air trilogy just for that. I feel like it's so magical and so special. I know not everyone loves it, but I loved it so much. Anyway, moving on, we also have the Shadow and Bone trilogy, the Shatter Me series, which I absolutely adore. We have the first 2 books in the Bridge Kingdom series. And then over on the very far side, we have my V.E. Schwab books. So we have the Shades of Magic trilogy. Again, Vicious is one of my favorites. And then sitting on the top here, we just have 2 books by Tahara Murphy, who's also the author of the Shatter Me series. Moving up, just more like miscellaneous fantasy books and fantasy series. First up on this shelf, we have Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom. Again, some of my favorite books ever. I love those books. Then we have the Plated Prisoner series by Raven Kennedy. I don't mind this series. I think it's good, but I don't think it's amazing. And I wouldn't like go out of my way to recommend it. It's one of those books where you look back and you're like, what actually happened in this book? And then you're like, not much at all. We have The Starless Sea, which a lot of people love. I thought it was like okay. I just don't think it's like for me. I love To Kill a Kingdom. It's a mermaid romance or a siren romance. So good. Little Mermaid retelling and a standalone, fantasy standalone. More people need to read this too. We have the Scholarmance trilogy, which I absolutely loved. YA, dark academia. It's not like so dark that it's like unsettling. It's just more like monsters at a school kind of vibe. Kingdom of the Wicked I didn't really like, hence why I have not continued the series. Powerless, one of the best books I've read this year. So good. Jade City was really good. Legendborn was really good. I loved the Renegades trilogy by Marissa Meyer. So freaking fun. It's YA sci-fi. I think it's about superheroes. If you haven't read it, you absolutely need to. It's so much fun. I also really loved Ready Player One. Again, another sci-fi book. I've been in my sci-fi, well, I don't want to say I'm in my sci-fi era because I've read like 5 this year, but before that I hadn't read any. So I'm stepping into my sci-fi era and I'm loving it so far. Then we have These Violent Delights and Our Violent Ends by Chloe Gong, which I also really loved. And then we have Twin Crowns and Cursed Crowns by Catherine Doyle and Catherine Weber. I didn't love these, so sorry. And then sitting on top here, people get so angry at me for filling my bookshelves. Like, I get so many comments from people being like, you need to get more bookshelves, like your bookshelves are full, when are you getting another one? And I'm kind of like, guys, I have space to fill. Like, see that? Space. See that? Space. Like, I will eventually, but I love the look of a full bookshelf. Like, it is so satisfying to me. So I don't think I'll be getting a new bookshelf until I absolutely have to. So sorry if this annoys you, but I love the look of it. I love the look of these little stacks going up the top here. I think it's fun. Anyway, we have Dance of Thieves and Vow of Thieves, which I really enjoyed. We have the Red Rising trilogy by Pierce Brown, which is another sci-fi series, which I also enjoyed, but not like a top favorite for me. And then we have my paperbacks of Once Upon a Broken Heart and Ballad of Never After. These are some of my favorites, but I'll talk about them more in a sec because I have other copies of those books. The next 2 shelves I have are my only two dedicated author shelves. And it's only because these authors have so many books that they take up a whole shelf. I mean, I do love both of these authors, hence why I've read all of their books. But we have my Sarah J Maas collection here and we have my Cassandra Clare collection here. So starting off with my Sarah J Maas books. First of all, we have my mini copy of Kingdom of Ash. You can't tell me this isn't the cutest thing you've ever seen. Like, it's just literally a mini book and you can actually read it. Like, I mean, I don't think I'm planning on reading it, but I could if I wanted to. And then I have a special edition of Throne of Glass. I think this is so beautiful. It's not rare and it's not expensive, but it is beautiful. And I love having it as like a display piece on my shelf. And I think for me personally, I'm a Throne of Glass girly. Like, out of all of Sarah J Maas's series, I'm a Throne of Glass girly at heart. So this is so special. By the way, the mini Kingdom of Ash is from QBD. Then of course, I just have all of my Throne of Glass books. Nothing too special about these, but they are very well loved. I'm currently doing my reread of the series and I'm just even more obsessed than I was before. Of course, we have my ACOTAR books, and I do have 2 sets of Crescent City because these are the new covers here in Australia, and then these are the older ones. We also have obviously the trade paperback of House of Sky and Breath, which is why it's so tall. And then of course we have my Cassie Clare collection. I love Cassandra Clare. I love the Shadowhunters books. I only read them as an adult. I didn't read them as a kid. I wish I did because I think I would have been even more obsessed, like probably too obsessed, honestly. But I picked up a Cassandra Clare book, honestly, about a year ago. I picked up City of Bones and that started my obsession. So in the past 12 months, I've read all of these books. I actually thrifted all of these and all of these, which is amazing. I think I got all of these for like $20 total. Someone was destashing their Shadowhunters books and I said, yep, thank you very much. I'll take those. I'd always wanted to read them, but I don't know. I didn't know where to start. So when I found them at an op shop, I was like, let's do it. And then in December last year, I was like, let's do it. And I read all 6 Mortal Instruments books last December. And then I read all 3 Infernal Devices books in January. And then I just continued from there. But I would say my favorite books out of all of Cassandra Clare's books are definitely the Infernal Devices, which are these 3 here, specifically Clockwork Princess, which will rip your heart out. And then I also absolutely adore The Last Hours. So good. I also have this really beautiful edition of Clockwork Angel, which is the 10th anniversary edition, I believe. And it also has some really gorgeous like character art in it. Like, how beautiful are these? And we also have a really cool map in there as well, which I really love. So beautiful. On this shelf, I also have one of my absolute prized possessions, and that is this copy of Swordcatcher. Swordcatcher is the first book in Cassandra Clare's newest series, and I somehow got my hands on an ARC, which I am so thankful for. And not only that, it's signed. Like, I actually can't believe I have this in my hands. Like, Cassandra Clare is one of my favorite authors. Oh, no, I feel like the luckiest girl in the world to have this arc in my hands. The only reason I've got it on top of my Mortal Instruments books is because it doesn't fit anywhere else. Yep. Then over on the side here, we have the final copy of Swordcatcher, like the final published version, which again is the trade paperback size rather than the B format size. So the cover looks almost exactly the same, but they're just two different sizes, but the spines are different. And then I also have two copies of Chain of Thorns. We have this one in my hands and then this one on the side here. The one that is with the rest of my Last Hours books is just like the standard B format paperback, but this one is the collector's first edition. So even though it's kind of the same book twice, I am 100% keeping both because this one has pictures. And I'm obsessed with the illustrations in this book. I think it's so beautiful. Moving on to my last fantasy shelf, these are all of my really tall paperbacks, aka trade paperbacks. I do also have a few hardcovers on this shelf as well. A few of my favorites from this shelf, we have Divine Rivals. Oh my gosh, Divine Rivals. So freaking good. I honestly really loved these Hollow Vows and these Twisted Bonds. This is YA fantasy and it was pitched to me as ACOTAR with no spice. And I would say it is that, but it's also different. Like, it does have some parallels to ACOTAR and some people say it has too many. I don't think it has too many. It still felt like a different story to me and I just thought it was fun. I really liked it. And oh my gosh, Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, one of my favorite books of the year. This is cozy fantasy. We just follow Emily Wilde as she goes around studying fairies. Basically my dream. She's a little bit socially awkward. That's okay. And there's a bit of a rivals to lovers romance in here. Very much like crumbs of romance, like definitely not like a lot of romance. But if you just want something cozy and cute and like fun, read this book. I loved it so much. Then we have the Prison Healer trilogy, which I thought was like just fine. We have Belladonna and Foxglove, which I had a lot of fun with. Then we have the Secret Shanghai series. Again, really enjoyed those ones. Then we have one of my newest favorite books, which is Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. I adored this. I gave it 4.5 stars and I loved it. It felt kind of like a cozy fantasy to me, but like with more action. But the two main settings in this book is a magical library and like an old manor. And it's just so incredibly cozy. I loved it so much. And then in the corner here, we have my hardcover copies of Once Upon a Broken Heart and The Ballad of Never After, and then my trade paperback of A Curse for True Love. I am obsessed with these books. Definitely one of my favorite series of the year. It felt so magical and so atmospheric. Like, I loved these so much and I think about them so often. So I really wanted to get the hardcover copies because the hardcovers are so beautiful. And Under the Dust Jacket, so beautiful. I have ordered a hardcover copy of A Curse for True Love. I'm just still waiting for it to arrive in the mail and then my collection will be complete. I'm so obsessed. Like, I love these books so much. I know a lot of people didn't love the third book, but I honestly did and I'll stand by it. I loved it. Yes, it wasn't like perfect, but I ate it up. I devoured it. I had so much fun with it and I will continue to rave about it. Guys, I think I just realized that my copy is signed. I did not know that. I went to go take the dust cover off to show you guys like a close-up of the front cover. You're kidding. What the heck? How did I not know that? Exclusive Hot Escape Vault Edition? I didn't even know that I did that. To be honest, I don't know if it's hand signed or just like printed, but I don't care. I have a signed copy. I didn't even know it. That's crazy. We have one more shelf and then the top row and then we're done. I'm a floating head again. Ignore that. I forgot to say, I also have obviously The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue and then I have my indie published version of The Atlas 6, which again, another very prized possession since that isn't printed anymore. And then obviously we have the top row here, which like I said, is pretty much just YA thrillers and mysteries. I love YA thrillers and mysteries. Like, I am a fiend for a YA mystery. I am missing the third book in the Good Girl's Guide to Murder trilogy because I have a friend borrowing it at the moment. But apart from that, I think all of the series are complete. I would say my favorites from this shelf are definitely the Natural series, the Truly Devious series, and the Inheritance Games trilogy. And I also love Tiny Pretty Things and Shiny Broken Pieces. I wish I had more people talking about these because these are so good. It's just about a bunch of girls who go to a prestigious ballet school, trying to get revenge on each other, trying to kind of sabotage each other. Super like catty, but very entertaining, I must say. It's like Gossip Girl meets Dance Academy. And like I said, the top row is kind of just like things that don't fit on the normal shelves. So over on the right side, I mostly have thrillers and then a couple of like dystopian books. Actually, I do have one like magical realism book up there, which is The House on the Cerulean Sea. I love that book so much. I read it back in 2021 and I still think about it all the time. Then I have The Hunger Games and Divergent. And then on the left side, we have mostly romance, but also a few general fiction and literary fiction up there as well. So over on the very left, I just have a bunch of trade paperbacks. So those really tall paperbacks. I loved Carrie Sotomayor's Back. I loved Second First Impressions when I first read it, just like a cute little rom-com. I love Tomorrow, 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 and I also really enjoyed Yellowface. Then there's just like a whole bunch of miscellaneous romances, honestly. And then I just have a bunch of YA books over here. So we have To All the Boys I've Loved Before, which I love. The Summer I Turned Pretty, which I love. And then we have the Abby Glines, I'm not sure how to pronounce her name. The series that starts with Until Friday Night. I read it in high school and I was obsessed with it at the time. And then I also have a John Green book up there, again, just like nostalgic. But I think that's everything. Obviously we have my TBR cart. If you guys want to see what's on the TBR cart, I'd recommend watching any of my TBR prompt jar videos because I really go into it in those videos. But there's not really any sort of like organization or order to my TBR cart. They're all just kind of on there. But I hope you guys enjoyed seeing my bookshelf. Like I hope it was fun to watch. I don't know if, like I love watching people's bookshelves, but for some reason I'm like, I don't think mine's that interesting. This area is definitely like my favorite part of the house. I love my books so much. They bring me so much joy. So it does feel so special to show them to you guys. I will say I kept putting off this video because I was just like, oh, they're not perfect. They're not perfect. I want them to be different. I want them to be more organized. I don't know. Like I just kept putting it off because it didn't feel quite finished to me. And then I realized they're just like never going to be finished because I'm always going to be reading more books. I'm always going to be adding to them. I'm always probably going to be, you know, like unhauling some things from there as well. So I may as well just show you what I have right now and then I can just continue to update you guys if I make any updates. Obviously, I'm gonna have to buy another bookshelf at some point in the future. I don't know when that will be because like I said, I reckon I can still fit quite a few more on here. I know some of you disagree with me. I get a lot of DMs about it, but I love my shelves and I'm so glad I could finally share them with you guys in depth. My camera battery literally just died, so that is a sign that I need to stop talking. But if you guys have any more questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I'll try my best to get back to you. But I love you guys so much and I will see you in my next video very soon. Goodbye.